When advice is given out online about something that we participate in, such as a hobby, there can be very strong voices out there who distribute their advice with the sense that there is one way, my way. It is a true way, and there's one of them, as we said. But so important is the fact that there's one of them, it bears repeating, sometimes many times. There is one way. That one way is my way. It's my way or the highway. My way is the one true way. And that can be frustrating, especially because there are an awful lot of games out there. And there are an awful lot of groups out there, and there are an awful lot of people in those groups playing all of those different games out there. Just as there isn't a single game, you can follow through the logic on your own. So, is there a one size fits all dosage of advice for people who are having some trouble running their games? They have some kind of problem and they seek a solution, but then are met with, well, what I do is right, or what, you know, some expert or other has said. And it's nice when that advice actually matches up with the problem, but we can't guarantee that either. There are many ways to play. And it's nice to find some kind of recognition or confirmation out there that other people play like you do, or at least understand it. that we are not alone. Games are complicated things, and games require, in many cases, a group. And groups, especially as we get older, require organization. It would be nice to think that we as friends or we as a group of like minded people with the same interests could organize ourselves consistently all the time without trouble. This isn't always the case. When the fires of passion for a new campaign are upon us, organization is pretty easy. Later on, when we settle in to that comfortable routine where the Tuesday night game or whatever it is has become established, it's written in pen on the calendar. Tuesday night is game night. You would think that organization would be even easier, simple, maybe, sacrosanct. That is the day that we do things, and this is the way that they are done. However, especially as we get older and as our responsibilities change and mutate, grow, organization can be affected. And the group, as an organizing principle or as a vehicle for organization, can become flawed. Sometimes an organization is not the best means to attain organization. And anyone who's ever spent any time on a planning committee knows what I'm talking about, especially in the absence of any kind of clear or effective leadership. And so we can find that our drive for whatever it is that we're looking for inside this hobby can sometimes best be met by the principle of the responsible person. Now, it can sound like I'm talking about a leader, or it can sound like I'm talking about that GM authority. It could be that, but it doesn't need to be. What we're talking about is the way of doing things. Your implementation of the way of doing things, well, that's on you. But inside the group, you may already have someone who has become the responsible person. There may be someone among you already who is the one who always contacts everybody and makes sure they know when and where to be so that the game can happen. There may be someone among you who keeps track of character sheets or notes those special occasions that can matter so much to a group becoming friends and not just strangers who play a game together. Things like birthdays, anniversaries, stuff like that. There may already be in your group someone who has stepped forward from the group, and they might not even be recognized as such. They may have been chosen, elected, selected. Everybody else stepped back, leaving them in the forward position. Haha, it's you. Or they may have stepped into that role themselves, either as self-sacrifice, as altruism, as an indicator of their own passion to make sure that the game is played, or some other reason or combination of reasons. Having a consistent person or people in a position of responsibility. Notice I'm not using the word authority, although they may end up needing some kind of authority, but responsibility. And I don't mean duty, not service to the group, not obligation to the group. Simply, they have a task to perform, and they will perform it for the group. This doesn't all need to be dumped on one person either. So a person or people inside the group with specific tasks that are their tasks alone. You might say, well, that just sounds like the group, delegating its own, needs to itself, and that's the group working as the group. Is it? When the group places its trust or will not function without the action of a specific member or members at a specific time for the game to happen, then no, this is not the group functioning. This is the group relying on someone who is reliable. And that's why I call them a responsible person. And I've recognized over the years that, as I said before, it's not necessarily the same person. There might be somebody who's stepping forward to shape the vision of the group for what gets played, and someone else who's stepping forward to organize when it gets played, or how people will get there, or whatever. But for ease of communication, let's just focus on this idea of the responsible person. The group needs events to be organized. The group needs to coordinate between members. The group needs, at times, someone to mediate between members who are having problems with something about something. And in a significant number of cases, you can find that all of this flows so much more smoothly when there is someone who will step forward at the right time to do something. We are a group. We are a hobby based around social interaction. We're all there to have fun. We're all there to contribute. We think of ourselves as collaborators. We think of it as shared imagination. And yet, there is this line drawn in many situations between the ability of the group to overcome the inertia of life and the ability of the responsible person to overcome that same inertia. We can see it in the form of pitches for games being sharper, more evocative, tailored specifically to the group and the group's interest, because someone has taken the time to think, what would it be fun for us to play? We can see this in the offering of a place to play or other resources related to play. We can see it in providing access to the material for play. Is there someone in the group who does obtain the material? Or, does the group communally go in and share access to material? Is that And what happens? So there are many pieces about how our groups function that have a tendency to flow better when guided by someone who will take the responsibility to make sure things come to fruition. Where this can all break down is, as was mentioned earlier, when someone having the responsibility is transformed or converted or conflated by the group to be an obligation. If that person doesn't do it, it won't happen. We're waiting for you to call us. We're waiting for you to schedule it. We're waiting for you to suggest something. And that's how groups end up becoming not groups. That unifying principle of the charismatic person, the creative person, the visionary in the group, the one who has the big library and the dream of one day playing all of those things, etc., etc., that individual or that small cluster of individuals inside the group, that is how they get worn down, worn out, driven away. That is how they become dictatorial authoritarians. That is how they become convinced that they are the center, the nucleus of the group, rather than a member of the group. And it's sad, really, that this social and entertaining hobby, which should lead to inspiration and collaboration, action and interaction, can be perverted where really nobody is having any fun. It would be nice if our view of ourselves as a community or as a collection of gamers who all come together and work together to collaborate to make something happen were as true as we think it is. And we may find, looking around, that there is someone or a few people in our midst working away to make sure that everybody else is going to have a good time. When that system is working smoothly, they get to have a good time too. Is this something that everybody in the group is capable of doing? Yes, it is. Is it something that some of those people who step forward want to relinquish? We won't know unless we ask. So, a significant portion of my time as a gamer has involved this principle very strongly, sometimes as one individual in a role where they are orchestrating what happens inside the group. More often, I've been in groups where everybody's the game master, everybody's a player, everybody has multiple characters, multiple interests, multiple campaigns, and we each have our own strengths and weaknesses as social individuals. But in the moment of need, that one person or pair or trio of people step forward to make sure that things happen. The responsible person. And you can see examples of this in our online play on this channel. When you look at the reflections videos, when you look at the round table sharing of game learning, when you look at the recaps and how they pull out and indicate which players are doing what, which characters are doing what, and so on and so forth. So if this is how your game works, there are others, maybe millions of others out there, just like you and just like your group, who organize themselves together into some form of common identity. This is our group, and this is our game, this is our campaign, and yet rely heavily on the actions of a singular or small group of people within that group. It is a good organizing principle, at least if we remember to thank those people and sometimes take the load off their shoulders.